Imagine you spend 10 plus years chasing the dream of becoming a leader in the LA nightclub, only to realize it wasn't meant for you. Now, in time, you would decide to leave behind the lifestyle you spent a decade working towards and then pivot into something completely different, such as ultra running. Now, we're comparing apples to oranges, completely different lifestyles. This is the story of Eli Webby. I just finished his book, Mask, and this is a major theme in the book. And today I want to use Eli as an example that at any point in our life, we have the power to hit the reset button and make a change. Although the best time to make a change may have been 1, 6, 12 months ago, the second best time is right now. 5 steps to reset any area of your life. Let's fire it up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bob Bay. Each week on these solo podcasts, we dive into topics to help you become the best version of yourself. Do I have all the answers? Absolutely not. This is just my bearded wisdom that I hope brings value to you. Now, if you enjoy this episode at any moment in time, all that I ask while you're listening to these podcasts, please screenshot this episode on whatever platform you're listening in on, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, you name it. Screenshot it, post it to your IG story, tag me at Bob-A. That's B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's and a Y. Share out the podcast on your IG story. Let me know, what was the biggest takeaway? What was the learning? How did this specific episode change your perspective? I'd be very curious to know. So if you enjoy this episode at any moment in time, please do so today. If you have not yet already downloaded our Stay Dialed In app, you need to do that today. You need to check it out. It is free to download. It is going to be your biggest accountability partner, your biggest accountability community. And it's really something special that I'm excited to continue building out as the year follows, or as the year continues, I should say. So check out Stay Dialed In app. You can find it on any app store. You can head to join.staydialedin to learn more. And there is a paywall behind certain content, such as our private videos and podcasts, as well as our community section, where you can discuss literally every topic under the sun, from career, relationships, mental and physical health, resources, life experiences. This is really a place that you can tap into, and a world, I would say, where you can really be your most authentic self, be vulnerable, share what you're going through, and know that there's a community of people, including myself, there to support you. I am a member of the community. I may have been somebody that is leading the start of it and the founding of it, but believe me, I am a member like all of you. So I'm really excited to see this come to fruition, and just to see how people are kind of chatting in the chat and some of the content they're enjoying as well. So head over to join.staydialedin.com to learn more. Once again, that's join.staydialedin.com to learn more. In the link in the description of this episode, I will have a link for it. In the description of this episode, I will have a link for the app. So please check out Stay Dialed In app on all platforms. Thank you. Reset any area of your life. So some context as to how I came across Eli Webby, who I would argue is David Goggins of my generation. I moved to LA in September of 2017. I'm hosting my first podcast, Purpose in the Youth, at the time. I'm always on IG looking for new people to chat with. And every few months I would come across this guy, Eli, right? And with just a quick scroll on his feed, you could see that this dude was connected to everyone. Justin Bieber, Machine Gun Kelly, G-Eazy, the Chainsmokers, Floyd Mayweather, and the list goes on and on. Any celebrity you can imagine, he has probably spent the night with, and made sure that they had the best night of their lives here in LA. So I'd come across his IG, then I would Google his name, and I couldn't find anything about his story, where he was from, how he got to where he was, nothing. All I knew was that he was a partner at this hotspot here in LA called Warwick. I never took the shot to reach out to him, because I couldn't quite figure out anything about him, which, if you know me and you listen to these podcasts, I really do like to do a lot of research ahead of the time before the guest comes on, so I can really figure them out and then dive deeper. So I I just never reached out. I just couldn't figure out anything about this guy. And I had mutual friends of his, but I never pushed it. So fast forward, years go by. Every so often, I continue to come across his IG, and I would not be surprised to see that he was still thriving here in the LA nightlife. COVID hits, club life disappears, and I don't come across his IG again until my buddy Mason sends me his I'm back social post where he's running and reflecting on the past few years of his life. Now, mind you, I never followed him on IG. I would just somehow, some way find myself on his Instagram, and a year had gone by, almost 2 years. So the guy that I had known for this LA nightlife, now I'm seeing in this running video, and I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here? Like, what happened? This is a change in who this guy was. So long story short, you have, he's the leader of the LA nightlife. He's partying with every celeb. I didn't know this until I read the book, but he's literally doing every drug under the sun. It's a very sad event happens where there is a young woman that overdoses hours after leaving a party at Eli's. There's a huge, I'm not here to get into it, but there's a huge pointing fingers of who's to blame for this young woman passing. And then he leaves the LA nightlife, and he's starting to realize how toxic it is, and it's ruining him. He gets completely sober, and then he double downs on his passion for running and completely changes his lifestyle 180 degrees. Now, at the highest level, okay, we're not going to get into kind of his story or some of, the details of it. That's just the high level. He went from LA nightlife to now an ultra runner. And I was really intrigued by this because it just goes to show you, like, this guy who's so in it on one spectrum completely flips into 180. And I really suggest if even that context is of interest, I would really recommend reading his book Mask, which I'll have also linked up in the description below, because it's a really a well-written book, and it really just such a good example of it's never too late to make a change, and when you really need to make a change in your lifestyle, to do it. So once again, I'm not here to discuss his life in detail. I'm just using the highest level of his story, being in the middle of the LA nightlife to then ultra runner, or training to be an ultra runner, which is, 20, 30, or anything above a marathon, I would say. 50-mile runs, 100-mile runs. There's up to 300-mile runs. It's literally savage stuff. I'm using him as a prime example that when we want to make a change in our life, we possess the power within us to hit that reset button. Although I have not made quite the pivot as Eli has, I for sure have had to make changes in my life where and when I felt it was time to do so. So examples, leaving my full-time, Uber career after 3.5 years to work for Liquid IV. This was a no-brainer opportunity, but I also had to leave behind my creative outlet of podcasting for almost 9 months until I got back into it. Barely being able to run a mile when the pandemic first hit the reset. I was like, it's time to go all in. And then I was able to complete my first marathon. And I'm actually going for my second one this Saturday, January 29th, which I am so pumped. Austin, Texas. I'm coming in hot, baby. Having felt empty being out of the podcast space, right? I started a new show, started all over again from the ground up. We've built it. And here we are today pumping out episode 161 of that show. And even on the smallest scale, the smallest of the smallest scale, I recognized that I needed a break from drinking alcohol. And at the time of this recording, I've gone 22 days straight without it. And that's solely just in preparation for this marathon and just wanting to be much more conscious and aware of like when I'm consuming it and being more mindful of it. So when I need to reset, I do it. I don't think twice. I listen to my gut and I make the necessary changes. The word reset may make you anxious, overwhelmed, or nervous, and that's perfectly normal. Change is uncomfortable. Complacency is comfort. Let me say that one more time. Change is uncomfortable. Complacency is comfort. When we internally feel something needs to change, we can't run away from it. We must instead lean into it and start making small steps towards whatever that change may look like. When in doubt, change it, right? If you're not happy with your career, if you're in a toxic relationship and it doesn't feel right, if you feel like you're not around genuine and supportive people, If you feel bored with fitness classes that you've been taking, change it. When in doubt, change it. The change doesn't happen overnight too, but rather over a period of time of consistently making the change. So today we're going to dive into the 5 steps to reset any area of your life. Any area. This doesn't have to be career. This can be relationships. This can be life experiences, the people you're around, any area. I think this really can translate into any of those buckets. First step, acknowledge what needs to change. This podcast is all about helping us reach our inner potential. And time again, regardless of the topic, the first step is this always tends to be it, which is just acknowledging it. If we don't take the time to acknowledge or call out what exactly we want to change and why, we are never going to make the change. By being aware enough to say, you know what? I'm really not happy with this aspect of my life is such a massive step in a new direction. We don't need to know what that reset looks like at this moment in time. We just have to be honest with ourselves that something needs to be changed. In Eli's example, him recognizing the LA nightlife was doing him no good, regardless of how many years he had spent working to get there, was very crucial. He could have easily rationalized, I put too much time to get here. I have to suck it up. I got to keep going with it. And although he did somewhat use that as a reason to stay in it, eventually that lifestyle became too much and he had no other option but to leave. It's perfectly okay to give areas of our life a pass here and there. But if it feels like we are dishing this out too often of like, it'll be fine, just keep pushing it off and pushing it off, it's a big red flag. We can come up with every reason to not want to make a change, but at some point, we may be forced to do so if we are not happy with the direction of where we're going. So the first step to reset any area of your life, we must acknowledge what needs to change. We don't need to know what the next step is just yet, but we have to be honest with ourselves that we need a reset. Quick break from today's episode, and then we'll get right back to it. Today's episode is brought to you by none other than the greatest hydration brand in the world, Liquid IV. Now, if you're watching visually, I got my 3 favorite flavors right here. We got the tangerine with a bunch of vitamin C in it. We have strawberry, and then we also have watermelon. These are the best flavors in my opinion, but the good news is there's a lot of different other flavors as well. I don't drink Liquid IV to just drink it. I drink it because it helps me feel my best self, whether it is working out, whether it is long runs, whether it is podcasting, just trying to feel my best self on a daily basis. This is the product that you guys and gals need. If you head over to liquidiv.com and use my promo code TheBeardedMan, it'll get you 25% off every single order, literally every single order, TheBeardedMan, all one word. This is the greatest hydration brand in the game. It's a new year. It's a new us. We are trying to reach our inner potential. There's no better way to do that than to start fueling your body to operate at its highest level. And hydration comes first, and that is very important. What's great about Liquid IV, it contains 5 essential vitamins, more vitamin C than an orange, and as much potassium as a banana. It is for sure healthier than sugary sports drinks. There's no artificial flavors or preservatives and less sugar than an apple. It is made with clean ingredients, non-GMO, vegan. It is free of gluten, dairy, and soy. So if you have any food allergies out there, it is pretty damn good from stopping you from, having to deal with any of those allergies. It's pretty clean. What makes Liquid IV so effective is the cellular transport technology, that's CTT. Essentially, 1 stick is the equivalent to drinking 2 to 3 times the hydration than just water alone. It is an incredible product. It is something that I use every single day, and I really do believe in it. Not only do they have great hydration products, we also have an energy product, which I'm a big fan of, and there's a lot of different flavors for you guys and gals to check out. So if you want to feel your best self, if you want to feel more hydrated throughout the day, if you want to feel like you have more energy, because hydration, I believe, does help us have more energy through the day, head over to liquidiv.com right now to get your supply and use my promo code TheBeardedMan for 25% off every single order. Once again, that's liquidiv.com, TheBeardedMan, all one word, 25% off your order. And that's going to help you feel your best self. So check it out. You won't regret it. Now, let's get back to the episode. Number 2, come up with a plan. Now that we've acknowledged something needs to change, we've sat on it a bit, We've contemplated what our next step could be. It is time to come up with a plan. In Eli's example, he didn't just start running long distance out of nowhere. The passion grew with him in time, which then led him to coming up with a plan to just go all in on it. When I was entering the podcast space with this show, all I knew was that I needed to get my ass back into the podcast space and see where it took me. I didn't know how many episodes I was going to do, or truthfully what the entire direction of the show was going to be, but I just knew it was time to make that next pivot. As you're considering hitting the reset button in different areas of your life, consider and visualize what the end goal looks like. You don't have to have it a dialed in plan with step-by-step directions of how you're going to get there, but you just have to have a feel for what you would like to change and what you would like your future to become. Once we have an idea of what that reset could look like, now we're ready to get to work. So the second step to reset any area of your life, we must come up with a plan for what we would like this change to look like. Without taking a moment to visualize it, we'll just be going in blind and we won't know what to do next. Number 3, effort creates progress. We have an idea of what this next chapter looks like in our life from the plan that we've created. Great. Now it's time to get to work. Progress doesn't happen out of thin air. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen to those who are lucky. To put it simply, progress comes from those who put effort in over a consistent period of time. That's it. There's no secret sauce. There's no back door. Just do the work. While Eli was trying to pull himself out of the nightlife, he would get sucked back in here and there. He'd go 6+ months sober and then send it one night and he was back to where he had left off. But what he never did was give up. Even when he slipped, as all humans do, he got right back up and he put in effort again to make changes. Now that I had a vision for this podcast, right? And that came to me in July of 2020, I got to work by putting in effort to create 2 podcasts per week. Since then, almost 18+ months later, we have not missed an episode other than the weeks I have intentionally taken a break to give myself a breather and to smell the roses and enjoy life. Why do I stay so consistent? Because I know that effort, me putting in weekly reps of episodes, is the only way I see progress. That's it. Regardless if today is day 1 or day 1000 of your reset, the theme remains the same. We must put in effort to create progress. Don't compare yourself to other people's progress. Just focus on yours. If you're going to compare yourself to anyone, compare yourself to where you were just yesterday or the day before, and let that progress be the fuel to the fire within you. So the third step to reset any area of your life, we must put in effort because it's what creates progress. So long as we are consistent over a period of time, we will begin to see some progress. Number 4, make pivots when necessary. Just because we've determined that we want to make a reset doesn't mean we won't have to make pivots along the way. It's part of the transformation. Our strategy for change may not be working as much as we thought it would, right? We may be getting burnt out, or we just may not be enjoying it as much as we thought we were. All the above are completely normal, and we need to give ourselves permission to make a pivot at a snap of the fingers. There's no need to get worked up, no need to overthink it. Just make the pivot. When I first started this podcast, it was purely a solo show. It was just me on these episodes like this, talking until around the 12th episode. And I had this internal itch to start bringing guests on the show and wanting to get back into having conversations with people on a platform. There was a slight resistance of, well, I'm already a few months in with this, doing solo pods. It's kind of too late, isn't it? But eventually I caved because I knew I had to make a pivot, and the rest is history. And I just kept going and I didn't overthink it. As you're continuing along your new path after you've decided to hit that reset, Give yourself full permission to make pivots along the way because it is bound to happen. The fourth step to reset any area of your life, we must be open to making pivots along the way because it is bound to happen. There is no perfect blueprint that we create ahead of time. We just adjust in real time. And the fifth and final step, welcome the reset. With time, you're going to see, feel, and realize that the hard work has paid off. It may feel like it is so far in the distance right now, but know that in time, it will catch up so long as you stay committed to that specific reset in your life. There are going to be people that try to convince you to not do it. There's going to be that internal voice in your head that tries to tell you it's not worth it because being comfortable with where you are is so much easier. But dig deep and listen to what your heart is telling you to do. When the reset comes, you will be thankful you did, and so welcome it with open arms. The fifth and final step to reset any area of your life, welcome the reset with open arms. You've put in the work. You've overcome the inner dialogue trying to convince you not to do it. You've consistently put in the work, and now you've gotten what you've asked for. To recap, we possess the power to reset any area of our life at any moment in time. As we looked at Eli Webby as an example today, he is proof that we can indeed make radical changes in our life. From being in the heart of the LA nightlife scene to running ultras, he made the switch. If he can do it, so can all of we. Once again, if he can truthfully do it, so can all of we. 5 steps to reset any area of your life. 1, we must acknowledge what needs to change. We don't need to know what that next step is just yet. And we have to be honest with ourselves that we need a reset. Number 2, we must come up with a plan for what we would like to change and then work towards that. Because without taking a moment to visualize it, we'll be going in blind and we won't know what to do next. Number 3, we must put in effort because that's what creates progress. So long as we are consistent over a period of time, we will begin to see progress. Number 4, we must be open to making pivots along the way because it is bound to happen. There is no perfect blueprint that we can create ahead of time. We just need to adjust in real time. And number 5, welcome the reset with open arms. You've put in the work. You've overcome that inner dialogue trying to convince you not to do it. You've consistently put in the work, and now you've gotten what you've asked for. Challenge for the listeners. That's you, beautiful ladies and gentlemen, listening right now. Spend 10 minutes within the next 24 hours and seriously consider what areas of your life, if any, do you feel needs a reset. Be honest with yourself and don't run away from the truth. As we talked about it today, the first step is just acknowledging it. And if we can do that, that is a massive step that will help guide us to eventually making change. Think about it today and see if there's anything specific that comes to mind. Questions from the Stay Dialed In community. We got one question coming in from at @JCorruptedMind_. Is it ever too late to reinvent yourself? This is a very powerful and strong question, and I'm so thankful that you asked. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Is it too late? Absolutely not. I'm actually reading a book right now called Finding Ultra by Rich Roll, and this man made a pivot at age 40. He was a lawyer, alcoholic, also transformed into an ultra runner. Most of the people that are listening to this podcast, I would say, are under the age of 35. If he did that at 40, you can make a pivot at any moment in time. And if you're above 40, you can still make a pivot. Reinventing yourself is a 3-step process that can be done at any moment in time. 1, acknowledge you're not happy with how things are going. 2, come up with a plan of where you'd like to be. And 3, stay committed until you get there. It sounds too simple, but that is all it is. Don't worry about past decisions getting you to where you are. Just make the change. Pod review of the week. This is coming from the iTunes podcast review. If you'd like to be next week's podcast review, please head over to the iTunes podcast app, find It's the Bearded Man Podcast. Scroll to the very bottom. It allows you to rate the show on 5 stars. And also there will be a part where it says write a review. If you could take a moment to write just a one-word review, one sentence, it would be so appreciated. So please do so today. Today's pod review goes to my girl, Lauren Mason. How you doing? The title of the review: highly recommend to up-level your life. Love that. She gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Let's go. She said, best podcast, great guests with fascinating and inspirational stories, solid tips on how to live a healthy, happy life. Crush the morning, crush the day. Let's go. Love that review, and I appreciate you, Lauren. If you guys and gals would like to be next week's pod review, please head over to the iTunes podcast app and jot a review. It really does help the growth of the show organically. And if you're enjoying these podcasts at all, it really does help. So please do so today. If you enjoyed this specific episode, the best thing that you can do today is screenshot this episode on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, you name it. Post it to your IG story. Tag me at Bob A. That's B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y. Share the podcast on your IG story. Let me know, what was the biggest takeaway? Was there a certain area of your life you want to hit the reset? Was there a specific thing we discussed that really stood out the most to you? A quote? Some bearded wisdom? I don't know. Let me know what the biggest takeaway was. Share it out on your IG story. And also, if you are listening on Spotify, you can now rate the show with stars, 1 to 5 stars. If you get a moment today, please take a moment to do that, because that definitely helps. If you have not yet signed up and downloaded Stay Dialed In app, you need to do so. It's going to be your #1 accountability community for 2022 and beyond. You can find it on all app stores. Just search Stay Dialed In. If you'd like to learn more about the app, please head over to join.staydieledin.com. Once again, that's join.staydieledin.com. In the description of this episode, I will have the link to sign up. It's been a great community. We keep building week over week, more members. Let's go. Got about 150 plus people in there. So can't wait to see 200. Can't wait to see 300, 400, 500. We're going to keep building this baby one brick at a time, one person at a time. That's episode 161. 5 steps to reset any area of your life. Thank you for tuning in. It's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.